This is CBC Vancouver News.
Things that will also kind of help increase affordability for the average person in BC, in addition to mitigating climate change.
With Premier David Eby promising to scrap the provincial consumer carbon tax, some BC experts say what's needed now is greater investment in climate policies. Also,
at this point, I'm not sure if we go too much longer, there's a lot of chance of recovery for some people.
Growing frustration from residents in remote Kootenay communities as months of negotiations and an ongoing ferry strike come to a standstill once again. Plus, the Juno vibes come to Surrey with a free music festival celebrating BC's diverse music scene. Hello, thanks for joining us. I'm Janella Hamilton. Canada's new Prime Minister and BC's Premier are both vowing to put an end to the consumer price on carbon. The carbon tax has been a divisive issue in this country, but experts say it's also been a key measure in Canada's fight against climate change. Liam Britton reports.
First priorities, we're going to deal with the carbon tax.
Applause in Ottawa and Surrey for promises of a consumer carbon tax coup de grace.
We'll introduce and pass that law in British Columbia to get rid of the carbon tax entirely.
Scientists have long linked carbon emissions from human activity to rising temperatures and worsening environmental disasters. So if a carbon tax is off the table, what options remain to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, which both these politicians have sworn to do? One researcher says the carbon tax was never going to be enough. What's needed is more investment, private and public.
We're talking about investments like into fast and frequent public transportation that's low carbon, affordable housing that's electrified, things that will also kind of help increase affordability for the average person in BC, in addition to mitigating climate change.
A leading environmental group says the tax's end is no surprise and could be a good thing.
The way it's advantageous is we can take this debate off the table and we can move on and implement other climate policies.
Like new building codes and incentives for technologies like electric cars and solar power, which have dramatically improved fast. An economist argues the consumer carbon tax was the best bang for the buck.
Regardless of whatever kind of objective for reducing emissions, it's going to be a more costly way of achieving the same goal that could have been achieved more cheaply with the carbon tax.
But Carney and Eby's opponents on the right say they're not moving fast enough. Federal Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre accuses his Liberal rival of planning only to hide the tax, with an election looming.
And after that election, if God forbid he were re-elected, there would be a bigger carbon tax than ever before.
He wants Carney to recall Parliament to definitively end the tax. BC Tory leader John Restad argues Eby should do the same, especially with a tax hike planned.
It's a simple act that can be put in place to get rid of the carbon tax immediately, so that we don't have to suffer through the April Fool's joke of a carbon tax increase.
He maintains climate change adaptation, not reduction, should be the focus.
Taxing people into poverty is not going to change the weather.
A deal with the Green Party following last fall's provincial election commits Eby's NDP minority government to a review of BC's climate plans. And a federal election is coming soon, political forecasters say, and both could have big implications for climate efforts. Liam Britton, CBC News, Vancouver.
Talks meant to end the ongoing Kootenay ferry strike have once again suffered a setback. The BC General Employees Union and employer Western Pacific Marine have been at the bargaining table for months, still not able to reach a deal. And as Corey Bullock reports, now the union says it's considering filing charges with the Labour Board.
The BC GEU and Western Pacific Marine continue to fight over wages and scheduling as negotiations on a new contract for inland ferry workers drag on. It's been 4.5 months since union members went on strike, significantly reducing sailings for the Kootenay Lake Ferry, and residents are fed up.
It's really wearing people down. People are exhausted.
This week, the union and employer traded accusations. Both parties said they were close to reaching a deal, but now negotiations have collapsed. The union said that it was shocked at the latest round of negotiations, stating that the employer slashed wage increases previously offered to workers by 60%.
This is a deal that could have been done in the fall if the employer had come to the table to properly bargain and was willing to accept the same general conditions that their major competitor, Waterbridge, has already accepted and we're already running under.
In response, Western Pacific Marine said it believes it has met the union's demands in bargaining. The employer has called for a third-party arbitrator, and it has sent the union another offer.
Let's get to the table, let's sort this out, vote on the proposal you've got, or don't, and come back to the table. Let's have an arbitrator, let's get through this together.
The BC government has repeatedly said it can't get involved and encourages both parties to reach a deal. But residents are calling for more support and binding arbitration to force an outcome.
At this point, I'm not sure if we go too much longer, there's a lot of chance of recovery for some people.
He says it's already taken a huge toll, with businesses shuttering, campground and hotel reservations being cancelled, and school and doctor appointments being missed. And as March break kicks off, the ferry landing is unusually quiet.
You know, you can see behind me that the ferry landing is empty. Normally, this would be a busy time for us. Normally, this parking lot would be full.
There will be a community gathering in Kootenay Bay on Sunday. And as of right now, there's no indication of when talks might resume. Corey Bullock, CBC News, Cranbrook.
Just over 5 years ago, the World Health Organization declared the global COVID-19 pandemic. Today, dozens braved the rain outside the Vancouver Art Gallery, calling for more provincial funding and treatment for people with long COVID, a chronic condition that some say can lead to debilitating long-term symptoms, like extreme fatigue, brain fog, and body pain.
We feel forgotten. A lot of us have been sick for 5 years now, and we're not getting the support that we need.
Hundreds of pillowcases with personal testimonies of those suffering from long COVID lined the steps of the plaza. One Richmond family doctor and members of Protect Our Province BC says funding has not been focused enough on finding treatments and diagnostic solutions for the condition.
In BC, we have 2 long COVID clinics. They each have 6 to 9 months wait with thousands of people on the list to get treated. I'm seeing a lot. I'm probably seeing at least 1 new case per day, and even sometimes per week.
She and others are calling for more research funding, disability support, and public awareness of the condition. A StatsCan report found about 1 in 9 adults experienced long-term COVID symptoms. Almost 80% of those people reported symptoms lasting 6 months or more. The Juno Awards may still be weeks away, but Surrey is getting an early taste of the excitement with a free music festival this weekend. It's part of a province-wide tour leading up to the Junos at the end of this month. Our Sarab Sandhu brings us more from the celebration.
Hundreds of people at Surrey Civic Plaza are taking in music performances at Let's Hear It, Juno's Plaza Party.
I love it. It's amazing. It's Surrey. Surrey's been growing all this time. It never has such a good reputation as it has now.
The festival's lineup includes Juno nominees Tyler Joe Miller, Channi Natta and Inderpal Moga, as well as Punjabi music icon Sarabjit Cheema, and more than 30 local BC artists across 6 different stages.
I love the exposure of watching pretty much it's like strangers watch you play and all that stuff. I think us as musicians, we have kind of like a lot to say. We have a lot of people that we want to like communicate our passion for music to, right?
This is the first time the Junos will feature an awards category for South Asian music. Organizers say Saturday's festival celebrates BC's diverse music scene.
The other is that we all know that Surrey is booming with artistry right now, especially from the South Asian music scene. It is the epicenter of that diaspora's music scene right now, and we really want to celebrate that.
The event is a part of a province-wide tour leading up to the 2025 Juno Awards, set to be held at Vancouver's Rogers Arena on March 30th. From long-time fans to first-time concert goers, organizers say the tour is about making the Junos accessible to people across the province. The family-friend event also featured open jam sessions and an opportunity for artists to collaborate with other music enthusiasts. The Let's Hear It BC tour will also be making stops at places like Prince George, Terrace, Kelowna, Victoria, and Nanaimo. Saurabh Sadhu, CBC News, Surrey.
Among some of the Juno nominees performing at Surrey's Plaza Party are two South Asian artists who say their first Juno nomination speaks to the growing momentum of Punjabi music in BC. Our Beneet Brach has more on their journey.
Punjabi music has always been such a vibe.
Behind the lyrics of these songs, racking up millions of views globally, is Surrey's Janella.
The world gives me so many ideas, the universe sends ideas. Sometimes it even gets hard to sleep, and I'm trying to go to sleep. I get an idea to get up so I don't forget it, voice note it in my phone, go back to sleep.
The Punjabi songwriter has earned his first Juno Award nomination this year in a new category for South Asian music. A milestone, he says, speaks to big dreams, bold collaborations, and the growing momentum of Punjabi music right in his hometown.
And wherever we go, we carry Surrey on our back as well. It just feels like it's like a dream come true.
A dream that took off in his teens.
I'd just come home and burn CDs and download the newest songs illegally, right? And just go through all of that. That's all I did.
Fast forward to 2017, Johnny began making his own music, songs about the Sikh faith and historical struggles.
So that kind of made me feel like I'm kind of giving back to my community.
3 years later, a major pivot. He connected with Punjabi vocalist Inderpal Moga.
And I never met someone before that I was so in sync with.
Moga says he feels like he's living his dream. Moga immigrated to Canada to pursue music. He says he recorded a song and sent it to over 500 artists on Instagram. He says he got one reply, Janella, and they've been a force since. Working on high-energy songs, love songs. And even adapting hip-hop beats and rap into Punjabi music.
You were born, you were raised here.
Yeah.
What has it meant for you to do that work here and to elevate Punjabi music?
Surrey is like the backbone of my life. All the studios that we work with, all the people we work with, artwork guys, photographers. In my eyes, it's become such a talented space.
Moga says he's proud that Surrey has given their music the most love. Now, one of their latest hits, Coolin', with Canadian Punjabi icon Jazzy B, is up for a Juno as the South Asian Recording of the Year. It's a full-circle moment for both artists who looked up to Jazzy B growing up.
I want everybody to be like, all right, yo, we're going on the dance floor, we're going to get turned now.
Recognition in Canada is catching up with the music's global popularity, and BC artists are leading the way in this new category at the Juno Awards, happening March 30th in Vancouver. Jenny says it reflects the rising influence of Punjabi music and the talent behind it.
Growing up again, we didn't have those platforms. We never used to watch the Junos to wait for a Punjabi artist to be on stage. So like to see our own people, our own language on those stages finally, it really means a lot.
Thank you. Beneet Brach, CBC News, Surrey.
I think it's sad that they're going to be closing up for such a long time.
Canada's oldest company in financial crisis, Hudson's Bay, says it will begin liquidating stores as early as next week, putting 9,000 jobs in jeopardy. That's next. Stay with us. The financial crisis is deepening for Canada's oldest company. Hudson's Bay says it could liquidate its entire business as soon as next week. The company is looking for financing after filing for creditor protection earlier this month. And as Nicole Williams reports, more than 9,000 jobs are at risk.
Canada's oldest retailer needs a miracle. Hudson's Bay is in serious financial trouble. In a statement Friday night, it now says despite exhaustive efforts, it's only been able to secure the kind of financing that will require the full liquidation of the entire business. That means 80 stores across Canada could start closing as early as next week, and more than 9,000 people are at risk of losing their jobs.
In addition to instant job loss, which is a huge hardship, the payment or non-payment of severance, and given the financial reporting we see publicly, that looks ominous.
It's a dire situation the department store says will happen unless it can find a last-minute solution. The announcement coming just a week after the department store filed for creditor protection.
For the company to announce a potential liquidation so fast after filing before the court is unusually quick and very troubling.
Those court filings show it has only $3 million in hand, but nearly $1 billion in debt.
The Bay hasn't kept up with the times, and it's not going to be around for much longer. This is merely the beginning of the end for them.
It would mark the end of Canada's most iconic and oldest retail institution, around since 1670.
They're really a fundamental part of our historical fabric. And, who can forget the Hudson's Bay blanket?
If the store goes under, there's a long lineup of those who will come looking for compensation, including creditors, landlords, suppliers, current and former employees.
The company says it's hopeful for any solution that will help them restructure so that it can save jobs, keep retail locations across Canada, and ultimately save a company with deep historic ties to this country before it's too late. Nicole Williams, CBC News, Toronto.
A powerful storm system has ripped across parts of the U.S. South and Midwest, unleashing a series of tornadoes. At least 26 people have been killed. Most of the fatalities are in Missouri, where violent tornadoes touched down overnight. Officials in Kansas say at least 8 people in that state were killed in a dust storm stirred up by the tornadoes. The storm has created havoc on the roads, caused crashes, and destroyed homes and businesses. At least 3 people died in Arkansas and more than 24 were injured. Tornado warnings remain in places several states along the Gulf of Mexico. And in Oklahoma, raging wildfires have destroyed more than 300 structures and torched over 680 square kilometers of land, leaving thousands of people without power and under an evacuation order. Officials say the fires were set intentionally to control vegetation, but heavy wind gusts on Friday led to the flames burning out of control. The world's top ocean mapping scientists on board a Canadian Navy ship are trying to get a sense of what's happening below the surface in the Antarctic. International climate correspondent Susan Armiston was there too, along with the team from New Brunswick.
No one ready there, Gordon.
Contact this bridge. You have permission to launch the USV when ready, over.
Science at Sea is a heart-pumping project.
Get that hook up!
With the Navy crew trying to launch Kevin Wilcox's remote-controlled boat.
Once we get free, we'll take her back.
But our boat gets too close to the bow.
Whoa!
Whoa! Sorry about that. We were getting right underneath the transom. I didn't want anybody's head getting hit.
The unmanned surface vehicle is part of the University of New Brunswick's Ocean Mapping Group. It even has a mascot, Pingachu.
So ping like a sonar. The most important is the sonar that's underneath, and so that essentially sends a pulse of sound down to the seafloor.
100 times a minute, creating a picture of the bottom of the sea.
So we have a map over here that has data that's been collected from other groups. So I'm essentially going to be driving the USV back and forth and essentially painting in this area of the seafloor.
As the Antarctic warms and the glaciers dump more fresh water into the salty seawater, scientists want to know what happens to ocean life. This work fits into a bigger picture. Only about 25% of the world's oceans are mapped, and there's a push on to get it all done. But as you can see, it's incremental and challenging. On shore, it may not look like much, but this connects to an undersea cable, part of an observatory which reads the ocean's vitals, temperature, pressure, and salinity every day.
And so that was put in by Ocean Networks Canada in a collaboration with the Spanish for this location.
The Yellow Explorer is working away. The seabed map is starting to fill in, but suddenly, trouble.
Surprisingly, there's kelp here, which...
Who knew?
Yeah, exactly. And so that got caught up in my motors, essentially. And we've cleared that, but unfortunately, they're still not responding.
Attempts to fix it fail. So it's back to Mothership to triage the problem. And he still has to get his vehicle back on board the Margaret Brooke.
Okay, heads up to the boat.
You must be clear the water.
Safely stored. Turns out it was just a fuse. He's relieved.
All the challenges, I'd do it all over again.
Susan Ormiston, CBC News, Espanola Cove, Antarctica.
Here we have a time lapse from our CBC Tower Cam this morning. Clouds moving in, bringing lots of rain to the south coast. I'll have your full BC-wide forecast when we return. All right, it is time now to take a look at our weekend weather. Let's begin with a quick look at the precipitation forecast. Beginning with some rain overnight for much of the south coast, and that's going to carry in to tomorrow and Sunday. And as we can see on the map, some higher elevations are going to experience those wet flurries and snow. That's illustrated by the purple on the map here. And heading into the current temperatures around the province tonight, -20 and snowy in Dease Lake, -13 in Fort St. John, in Williams Lake, -3, and on the island, rainy with a low of 2 and 3 in Tofino. Heading into tomorrow, Fort St. John and Dease Lake, both with snow flurries and a -6. Heading into Prince George, a mix of sun and clouds and a high of 5 for tomorrow. A lot of precipitation across the map. Kamloops and Kelowna, both with a high of 9 in Kamloops and a high of 6 in Kelowna. And on the island, a chance of, or a risk of thunderstorms, I should say, in both Victoria and Tofino with a high of around 8. Heading into the 5-day forecast here in Metro Vancouver, we're going to have a mostly cloudy system tonight with a 40% chance of showers early into tonight and, early into tomorrow morning. Those showers may also come with a risk of thunderstorms and a little bit of wind. That is your late news for this Saturday, March 15th. Thanks so much for joining us tonight. To keep up to date with all the latest news, head to our website at cbc.ca/bc. We'll see you tomorrow.